Hello and welcome to the anticipated releases for 2025. This video is going up late, or actually when I looked at my calendar, I think it was about this week that I'd planned on it. Maybe? Yeah. The way I do mine though is not for the whole of 2025. I break mine down into the quarters so I can just focus on those books per quarter. So this is January through March. Fingers. I'm Morgan. If this is the first time you're here on my channel, I hope that you find something you really like on this and that you like the video in general and will stick around by subscribing to see more. Okay, let's start with January. The first month of the year is a little bit different as I only have one on my list that I'm anticipating. That's going to be Immortal by Su Lin Tan. This comes out on January 7th. It says, the young heir to a mortal crown, Lian ascends to a precarious throne when her grandfather dies, vowing to end her kingdom's obligation to the immortals and take vengeance against those she feels responsible for his death. When she is summoned to the immortal realm, she seizes the opportunity to learn their secrets and to form a tenuous alliance to safeguard her people, all with the one she should fear and mistrust the most, the ruthless god of war. And even as they are drawn together and a treacherous attraction ignites between them, one she has to resist is not in danger all she's fighting for. An enemies to lovers sorts of situation there, because it is a romantasy. I don't remember if I said that it is romantasy. And there are so many good books coming out in January. So we have a large honorable mention section. These are books that I know several of you are looking forward to, ones that I would like to read, but they require reading the first book in the series first, or multiple books in the series, and that just hasn't been done yet. For January's honorable mentions, though, we start with An Honored Vow by Melissa Blair. This is the conclusion of the Halfling Saga. It comes out on January 7th. It's described as a fast-paced, endlessly swoony fantasy series, continuing the epic journey that began with a broken blade, and find out if Karina has what it takes to save the halflings and her heart. Also on the 7th, Four Ruined Realms by Maya Coraland. It's the second in the the Broken Blades series that started with 5 Broken Blades, which I thought just came out, but maybe it just blew up more recently. An immersive world and charismatic assassins are just the start of the series. The adventures and lies continue in the Four Ruined Realms, and we're ready to pick up right where we left off. Little blurbs. I'm not going to read whole descriptions for the honorable mentions. Then, coming out on January 21st, we start with A Crown So Silver by Lyra Celine. This is the second in the Fair Folk series. I don't remember if it's a trilogy. I think it's a trilogy though. It says, is set during a deadly trial on a mysterious snowy island ruled by a trickster king. A prize, a chance for vengeance. The prize, a chance for vengeance. The first one in this one was A Feather So Black. The same day, the one that everyone is probably looking forward to, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, the third in the Empyrean Saga series, which of course started with Fourth Wing that blew everyone's minds. It wasn't horrible. It was alright. Though I still have not read Iron Flame, which I think is where a lot of opinions did differ on that one. On the 28th, this is the conclusion of a trilogy, which I have been intrigued about since the first book, but I still haven't tried it. That's The Teeth of Dawn by Marina Lossiter. It's the third of the 5 Penalties trilogy. And I thought this was horror, but it does list it as fantasy. Maybe it's fantasy horror, and I don't know. But that's why I was afraid to start it. And The Teeth of Dawn concludes the riveting and mind-ripping epic fantasy trilogy from acclaimed author Marina Lossiter, where rebellion struggles to tear the mask of the illusions and enchantments from a society shrouded in layers of mystery. So see, it sounds so cool, and the covers all look so cool. We're moving into February now with Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett coming out on February 11th. This is the third in the Emily Wilde series that started with Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and it follows our professor as she is a bit curmudgeonly and not very good with people in general. It's not that she tries to be curmudgeonly, it's just She doesn't know how to interact with people very well. She's not very good with talking to people. She's very fact-focused. I'm quite sure she's like a neurodivergent character. And her counterpart is bubbly and charismatic and very people-personed. And they get thrown together. And yes, people described the first one as cozy. I didn't get the cozy. I'm sorry, I didn't. It's fantasy. It's a smaller fantasy. But the fairies in it are very dark. Very old school fairy seemings. So then on February 25th, we have Famous Last Words by Julian McAllister. It's June 21st, the longest day of the year, and new mother Camilla's life is about to change forever. After months of maternity leave, she will drop her infant daughter off at daycare for the first time and return to her day job as a literary agent. Finally, but when she wakes, her husband Luke isn't there, and in his place is a cryptic note. Then it starts. Breaking news. There's a hostage situation developing in London. The police arrive and tell her Luke is involved, but he is not the hostage. Her husband, doting father, eternal optimist, is the gunman. Our honorable mentions for February. I put Grave Empire by Richard Swan here, even though it is the first in a new series of The Great Silence. However, I put it here as it releases on the 4th, my bad, because it says in its first line, a new age of exploration and innovation has dawned and the Empire of the Wolf stands to take its place as the foremost power in the known world. And the last series was Empire of the Wolf, right? Or was that the first book? But still, I think this might be taking place in the same world. So for me, that means it goes on the honorable mentions. If I'm wrong, somebody who's read it or follows his work, please let me know. Moving on to February 11th, we have The End of the Ruinous Love Trilogy, Scythe and Sparrow by Brianne Weaver. It's the final book in the Ruinous Love Trilogy, Friends with Benefits, dark romantic comedy packed with murder, mayhem, and spice. And something, I think, about a carnival for this one, based off the cover and one of the other lines in the description. The next week, on the 18th, we have the conclusion to another series. The Crimson Moth duology ends with Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli, where we have witch and witch hunter going up against each other and falling in love. Also on the 18th, Cursebound by Sarah El-Arifi. This is the next book in the Feybound trilogy. They're no longer prisoners to the Fey court, but now 2 elven sisters are each bound by shackles of the heart. On February 20th, Warrior of the Drowned Empire by Frankie Diane Malice, which is the next book in the Drowned Empire series, is coming out, but it is coming out on ebook only. I'm not sure if this is because the publisher that she's been picked up by is releasing the paperbacks at a later date or a different date, since I think they're UK based. Another one that is a bit different is going to be Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which, yes, I would greatly anticipate this one, especially as I think it's another standalone sci-fi by him. However, the February release date is the UK release date, so unless you're ordering a UK copy or from like the Broken Binding or Waterstones or something else that'll ship to the US, it's not releasing in the US until later in the year. Hopefully with just as cool a cover though, because I do like this cover. For March, I have several more that are in the actual anticipated releases section than the honorable mentions. First up is The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Emily Wynne Zhao. I really hope I said that right. It comes out on March 4th. This is a YA fantasy, dark fantasy romance. I think I said that wrong. 9 years ago, the war between the Kingdom of Night and the Kingdom of Rivers tore An Ying's family apart, leaving her mother barely alive and a baby sister to fend for. Now the mortal realm is falling into eternal night, and Mo, beautiful ravenous demons, roam the land, feasting on the flesh of humans and drinking their souls. An Yang is no longer a helpless child, though. Armed with her crescent blades and trained in the ancient art of practicing, she has decided to enter the immortality trials, which are open to any mortal who can survive the journey to the immortal realm. Those who complete the trials are granted a pill of eternal life. The one thing Annie Yang knows can heal her dying mother, but to attain the prize, she must survive the competition. One, I don't think I said the main character's name right. Two, I mispronounced a lot of things in that short description. Also on the 4th is the third book in the Unorthodox Chronicles. This is Cold Iron Task by James J. Butcher. This is an urban fantasy series following Grimshaw, Grimswald, Grimsby. And it says he may have one case under his belt, but he's still a novice orator in the Boston's Department of Unorthodox Affairs, and he's already made mistakes. So he is kind of a failed wizard, but he has been able to join this magical police force after some events within book 1. Moving on to the 18th, we have Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This one is another prequel novel in the Hunger Games universe, I suppose, because in this one we are following the 50th Hunger Games, where it is Hamish Abernathy that is going for District 12. And of course, if you've read the original trilogy, everybody's favorite grumpy mentor, who definitely has his own problems, and we were told a little bit about how he won his games in that one and things. So I do wonder how much of this it will cover from before and after. Also on the 18th, we have The Third Rule of Time Travel by Philip Fracassi. Rule 1, travel can only occur to a point within your lifetime. Rule 2, you can only travel for 90 seconds. Rule 3, you can only observe. The rules cannot be broken. Scientist Beth Darlow has discovered the unimaginable. She's built a machine that allows human consciousness to travel through time to any point in the traveler's lifetime and relive moments of their life, an impossible breakthrough, but it's not perfect. The traveler has no way to interact with the past. They can only observe. And after Beth's husband Colson, the co-creator of the machine, dies in a tragic car accident, Beth is left to raise Isabella, their only daughter, and continue the work they started. Mired in grief and threatened by her ruthless CEO, Beth pushes herself to the limit to prove the value of her technology. And since it's also slightly a thriller, I don't think I should read anymore, but things obviously start to go a little bit wonky there. Coming out on the 25th, we have The Deathly Grim by Catherine Purdue. This is a YA fantasy. It does say romance, but that was like so minimal. It actually felt good YA fantasy, just where that was not too heavy. This is the conclusion, though, to the Forest Grimm duology, where we are following our main characters as they enter this forest surrounding their village that is magical to retrieve a book that used to help their village flourish. And save the village pretty much, and save some people from the village that had been taken by the forest for retribution. Also on the 25th is going to be When the Moon Hits Your Eye by John Scalzi. This is another one of his humorous sci-fi takes that I do believe is going to be a standalone. The moon is turned into cheese. Now humanity has to deal with it. For some, it's an opportunity. For others, it's a moment to question their faith in God, in science, in everything. Still others try to keep the world running in the face of absurdity and uncertainty. And then there are the billions looking up to the sky wondering how a thing that was always just there is now something absolutely impossible. Astronauts and billionaires, comedians and bank executives, professors and presidents, teenagers and terminal patients, at the end of their lives, over the length of an entire lunar cycle, each get their moment in the moonlight. March's honorable mentions, starting with The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare on March 4th. This is the second in the Chronicles of Castelline series, which is her adult fantasy series. Darker magics, bigger secrets, and sharper tensions. The Ragpicker King takes us deeper into the Clare's latest series with dazzling court intrigue and the enchanting world we never want to leave. The first one was The Sword Catcher. It's about, right? I feel like that's the right name. There was another cover that was kind of similar, though, that was a romance and different. On March 11th, She Waits for You Beyond the Dark by Kristen Simmons. This is Death Games Duology number 2. It was described as a horror and a duology that's Jumanji but Japanese inspired, about estranged friends playing a deadly game in a nightmarish folkloric underworld. So I haven't read the first book, but now that I've heard about it, I kind of want to, because that sounds very intriguing. While these are the ones that I'm most excited that are coming out in the next few months, there are so many more books that are releasing every week that we find about I find out about later than when I make this list. So that's why we do the Monday list every single week, and I hope you will come back and catch some of those videos to add more crazy long lists to your TBR. I would like to know, though, which book you're looking forward to picking up most in the new year. I hope that you're having a lovely week, finding something great to read, and I'll see you in the next one.